Welcome to Twists of Life, where every story has an unexpected turn. Stories of joy and sorrow, hope and redemption, just like the life we all live. Make yourself comfortable. It's time to begin. Veronica arrived at school unusually early today. In fact, she didn't come on her own. Her mom drove her. The night before, she had another big argument with her dad, and her mother, who hadn't slept a wink, decided to take her daughter to school early so she could spend the day talking to a friend, discussing and criticizing her husband. It was a familiar routine. Heading up to the second floor, Veronica made her way to her classroom. By the window stood an unfamiliar girl in dark clothing. That must be the new girl. Yes, yesterday Nika had seen the teacher talking to her. She looked nice. Veronica decided she should introduce herself. Their group needed another girl, especially after Kira moved to another city. They were short one friend. Veronica would find out everything about her and see if she fit in as a new friend. Nika approached the window and said, "Hi, I'm Veronica. You must be the new girl? I saw you briefly yesterday. What's your name?" The girl flinched and seemed to shrink when addressed, but seeing Veronica's friendly smile, she shyly smiled back. "Hi. Yes, I'm the new girl. I'm Camilla." Her voice was very soft but surprisingly pleasant. Veronica thought the name would fit well in their circle, and they could teach her to speak louder. "Where are you from? Did you move from another city, or did your parents divorce? Why did you transfer to our school?" Camilla replied modestly, "No, I didn't move from another city, and my parents didn't divorce. My dad passed away, so I live with my mom. I transferred here because the school is closer to home, making it more convenient." Veronica nodded understandingly. "Ah, I see. That makes sense. I live far away, and commuting every day is a hassle. But I usually get a ride, either from my mom or dad. If they're fighting, my mom drives me. If they've made up, my dad does. It varies. Does your mom have a car?" Camilla looked away. "No, my mom doesn't have a driver's license." "Oh, that's too bad. She should get one. These days, every woman should know how to drive. Once she gets her license, she can teach you. I plan to get my license as soon as I turn 18. I've already told my dad, and he promised to buy me a car as soon as I get it. I can't wait." Camilla glanced at Veronica and smiled slightly. "Yeah, that's cool. I want to learn how to drive too." Veronica adjusted her hair. "What kind of iPhone do you have? An iPhone 12 or 13? I hope it's not a 13 because I still have a 12. I want to be the first in the class to get an iPhone 13. "I don't have a phone. I lost mine. My mom hasn't bought me a new one yet," Camilla said shyly. "Oh, great. I hope she doesn't buy you one this week because my dad promised to get me an iPhone 13 on Saturday, and then you can get yours." They stood talking, with Veronica doing most of the talking and Camilla listening with a sense of admiration. Nika noticed this. Perfect. The new girl would fit in well. Soon other classmates started arriving. Veronica took Camilla under her wing, introducing her to everyone, and they all welcomed her quite warmly. Soon the bell rang, and Veronica sat Camilla next to her. The day went wonderfully. Camilla quickly settled in and made many new friends. She was overjoyed to have found so many new friends so easily, and everyone treated her incredibly well. On Saturday, Nika invited Camilla to her place. They planned a pajama party with friends, a sort of initiation for the new girl into their circle. It turned out that Camilla loved to draw and was very good at it. One of the boys, Kostya, promised to bring her some special pencils his dad had brought from abroad. Camilla really liked him, and he clearly wanted to impress her with such an expensive gift. "They're amazing. You'll see. I have 2 boxes, and I'll give you one. If you like them, we can order more. Your mom can do it. I'll explain how later. My dad told me how." Kostya hung around Camilla all day. The girl was incredibly happy that everything was going so well. She had been very afraid to transfer to this new school, especially since it was quite prestigious, attended by children from wealthy families. For about a month, everything went well. Classmates treated the new girl kindly. They didn't ask too many questions. And about her mom, Camilla said she owned a cleaning company, but in another city. No one asked further questions. Many of their parents had businesses in other cities or even abroad. But then something happened that completely changed the classmates' attitude toward Camilla. It happened exactly a month and a half after she arrived. It was the 7th period, and they were let out 10 minutes early. Camilla rushed to the bathroom. Veronica and her friends said they would come a bit later. They needed to talk to the teacher about retaking a recent test they had failed. It was Friday, and the school was almost empty. When Camilla left her backpack and entered the bathroom, she bumped into the janitor at the door. The thin woman dropped an empty bucket in fright when Camilla collided with her. Camilla cried out and crouched to pick up the rags that had fallen from the woman's hands. The woman looked haggard, her forehead lined with deep wrinkles. But they weren't from age. The woman was only about 35. They were the marks of grief and hardship she had endured, and the hard, low-paying work she did to feed herself, her daughter, and her sick, disabled mother. This woman was Camilla's mother, and she worked as a janitor in this very school. "Oh, sweetie, they asked me to come in early today to prepare the auditorium for a celebration." Camilla frowned and hissed angrily. "I told you not to call me sweetie here. You promised. You said you'd pretend we don't know each other. Please don't let this happen again." "Mom? Is that your mom? Your mom is a janitor?" a voice said from behind the girl. Camilla paled. She slowly turned around and saw Veronica with her friends. The girls were looking at Camilla with wide eyes, then with contempt and disgust as they scrutinized her mother from head to toe, noting every detail of her shabby appearance. Camilla hoped this fact wouldn't affect their relationship, as she had already made friends with everyone, and they all treated her well. But her hopes were dashed when she saw the look on Veronica's face. In her eyes, Camilla saw such disgust and malice that she immediately understood. It was over. These girls would no longer be her friends. Silence fell. Everyone was quiet. The bell rang, but no one moved. Veronica shifted and stepped back, signaling her friends. "All right, we have to go. I have a party tomorrow, and I need to get ready with my friends, Adelina and Diana." Veronica emphasized, "my friends, Adelina and Diana," making it clear that Camilla was no longer part of their group. It was over. The girls quickly left the bathroom, giggling and whispering, and Camilla knew they were talking about her. She stood there, helplessly slumping her shoulders. Camilla really wanted to fit in at this school. There was a faint hope that Veronica was just upset. Camilla would call her that evening from her old phone, which she didn't bring to school, and ask her not to tell anyone what she had seen. Maybe Veronica would agree to keep her shameful secret, and no one else would find out. Even if she stopped being Nika's friend, at least the rest of the class would treat her the same way they had before. Camilla turned to her mother and shouted angrily, "I warned you! I told you if the same thing happened as in the last school, I don't know what I'd do. You ruined everything again. I hate you. You've ruined my whole life. Everything was going so well here, and you did it again." The woman wrung her hands. "But I didn't mean to, Camilla. It wasn't on purpose. I love you more than life itself. Please don't say such terrible things." Camilla grabbed her bag and ran out, leaving her mother in the bathroom. All evening, Camilla tried to call Veronica, but she didn't answer. Then a message arrived. Veronica wrote that the party was still on and that they were expecting Camilla the next evening at the appointed time. Camilla was overjoyed. So they had forgiven her lie and would still be friends with her. Everything wasn't as bad as it seemed. The next day, Camilla arrived at Veronica's party on time. She even prepared a whole speech to convince everyone that her mother being a janitor didn't mean anything. She wanted to tell her story, that her father had been wealthy and loved her mother, planning to marry her, and then Camilla would have been the daughter of wealthy parents. But tragedy struck. Her father and his parents died in an accident. Her uncle took all the inheritance, leaving her mother with nothing. No fiancé, no husband, no education, no means of support, only a sick mother and a future daughter. The girl should understand that Camilla wasn't to blame for how she and her mother lived and their poverty. But the girl was in for one of the biggest disappointments of her life. If she had known what awaited her, she would never have gone to that party. When Veronica let her in, Camilla saw that all her classmates were there. She immediately sensed something was wrong. They shouldn't be there. The party was supposed to be for friends only. Everyone looked at Camilla and fell silent. She paled, her mouth went dry, and she couldn't utter a word. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Then she heard Veronica's voice. "Dear classmates, I want to reintroduce our new girl. Our acquaintance began with a lie, and today I want to set things right. Today, only the truth will be spoken." Camilla looked at Veronica and slightly shook her head, her pleading gaze seeming to pierce stone. But Veronica looked at her mockingly and loudly proclaimed, looking her straight in the eye, "Meet Camilla, the daughter of our school janitor, the queen of the toilets, the businesswoman of the cleaning company. Welcome to our humble party in my humble home, O toilet princess, daughter of the poor and dirty beggar." Everyone laughed loudly and pointed at her, talking among themselves. Everyone, absolutely everyone, looked at her with disgust. Veronica had turned the whole class against her. Camilla stepped back. She couldn't stay there any longer. She turned to leave quickly before she started crying and heard Veronica shout after her, "Yes, go ahead, leave. You don't belong here. You have no right to relax and have fun in decent homes where respectable people gather. You should be cleaning toilets like your mother. Although, if you want, you can clean my toilet. I'll even pay you." Veronica shouted this, and all the classmates heard and laughed at Camilla, many agreeing with Veronica. Camilla ran out of the house. She ran for about 5 minutes, and only when she was far enough away did she slow down and then stop in the middle of the street. There were no tears, although she had been ready to cry at Veronica's house. Now the tears had vanished. Something had changed in Camilla. She suddenly realized how pathetic the people around her were. For them, nothing mattered except money. Compared to them, her mother was an angel, a queen, the richest woman in the world. And this woman had instilled in Camilla a strong spirit. She would no longer chase after these empty people, seeking their friendship and approval, trying to be one of them. She would be herself and achieve great success. She would no longer beg her mother to transfer her to another school. She was no longer afraid. Now she stood on her own, and no insulting word or action would reach her because Camilla had become invulnerable. She would go home, apologize to her mother, and tell her how much she loved her. Then she would return to school and ignore everything. She was sure she could handle it because her heart was now hidden behind a stone wall that no one could penetrate to hurt her. 15 years passed. Another anniversary of the graduates' meeting arrived. That year, the former 11th grade A class gathered almost in full. Their class teacher had been seriously ill in the fall, and many thought she wouldn't make it. But she recovered, and everyone decided to surprise her. They gathered to make her happy. After all, life is unpredictable. One moment you're here, the next you're gone. So every moment should be cherished. They gathered at the school, in their old classroom. Everyone, now adults, approached each other, greeted each other, hugged, laughed, joked, and reminisced about childhood and youth. Alla Ivanovna kept wiping away tears. She was so happy to see each of her beloved students. After half an hour, they were supposed to go to a restaurant that had been booked for the evening. And then, a strikingly beautiful and slender young woman entered the classroom. She was dressed so elegantly, yet without ostentation, that it immediately caught the eye. Veronica, standing nearby, greedily examined the expensive jewelry on her hands and her fur coat. It must have cost a fortune. Who could this be? She must have entered the wrong classroom. She certainly didn't study in their class, and she looked a couple of years younger. But then Veronica met the woman's gaze and froze. There was something painfully familiar in those eyes, as if she had seen them somewhere before. And then the woman, looking intently at Veronica, approached her with a light, graceful gait. The click of her expensive suede boots echoed in the silent classroom. Everyone watched the stranger intently. The woman approaching Veronica said softly but firmly, "Hi, Veronica. Don't you recognize me?" Veronica recognized the voice instantly. It was the same as it had been over 15 years ago. It was Camilla, the janitor's daughter. How could this be? "Camilla," Veronica began uncertainly but faltered, not knowing what to add. Camilla smiled. "Yes, you recognized me. I haven't changed much, have I?" Veronica said nothing. Camilla turned away from her and approached the teacher. Alla Ivanovna hugged the young woman, and they talked for about 5 minutes. The whole time, Kostya couldn't take his eyes off Camilla. He remembered how he had demanded his gift back, his pencils, when he found out who Camilla really was. He hadn't wanted to do it, as he was in love with her, but he had given in to peer pressure. If he had defended Camilla then, he would have become an outcast himself. He had been cowardly. When Camilla finished talking to Alla Ivanovna, some of her former classmates approached her. Everyone cautiously asked her questions, their curiosity overcoming their fear. They learned that Camilla lived in America and had been married to a very wealthy American for 8 years. She herself was far from poor. She was a successful and famous designer, had even been on TV, though now she went by her husband's last name. If anyone had seen her, they wouldn't have recognized her. She worked with very famous people, attended prestigious events, and even knew some Hollywood stars. Her mother had long been living with her in America. Camilla had bought her a house, and the woman had happily remarried. Camilla hadn't planned to attend the graduates' meeting, but it coincided with her brief trip to Moscow, so she decided to visit her hometown for a day. Everyone was shocked by what they heard. How could this be? How had she managed to achieve so much? She was just the daughter of a janitor, raised in poverty. No one in the class, not even those from very wealthy families, had achieved what she had. Many had not achieved much success and lived ordinary, average lives. And many of the girls had married simple guys with no money. But Camilla had achieved everything on her own, starting from nothing, and had even brought her mother with her. Some asked how she had managed to achieve so much, but Camilla didn't answer directly. She only said, "I worked very hard and didn't pay attention to anyone who tried to humiliate me. In fact, you all know this from school. Back then, I stopped being ashamed of my mother when I accepted myself and my background. I realized I could achieve anything I wanted, and that's what happened. There's no secret to it." When everyone was ready to go to the restaurant, Kostya approached Camilla and quietly said, "Let's go to the restaurant together. I've already called a taxi." But Camilla shook her head. "No, I can't, even if I wanted to. I have a flight in an hour. I need to get to the airport. My car's already waiting outside the school. I have to go." Kostya walked Camilla to her car. The driver patiently waited and opened the back door when she approached. All the former classmates watched this scene, and many envied her so much they couldn't hide it. But Camilla paid no attention to anyone. She extended her hand to Kostya, and he shook it. "Will I ever see you again?" Kostya asked hopefully. Camilla sadly smiled and shook her head. No, I don't think so. I have no ties to this city anymore. Today I came on a whim. Now I realize I shouldn't do it again. Goodbye. And Camilla was about to get into the car. For a moment she hesitated and turned back to Kostya. Kostya, thank you for the pencils. Even though you took them back later, they played an important role in my life. Thank you for everything, even for ignoring me. There was a time when I was in love with you, and you know what? I'm glad we never got together. I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. Goodbye. And Camilla got into the car, leaving Kostya behind. He stood there for a long time, watching the car drive away, and even after it disappeared around the corner, he kept looking in that direction. He thought about the girl he had once loved, and who, in just 40 minutes, had left a deep impression on his heart.